Today's date is 21 December 2024. Time is 4:15 p.m. Now, this next video centers around the most recent video from Jessica Denson. I realize that I mentioned her a lot, and no, I am not paid in any way, shape, or form to represent her point of view. Although I do realize that she is the only one out there, either mainstream or social media, of any significance that is echoing the disqualification based on Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. As you can see in her videos, she is extremely intelligent, insightful, and passionate. I don't see that type of vigor from any other major media group at this time. This is what gravitates me towards her and recommends her as a viable source. Having said that, social media is gaining steam over mainstream media. They are not hampered by corporate big shots that will form their message, although some social media podcasts can curve their message in the fear of losing subscribers, which could be an Achilles heel. Although they are by leaps and bounds better than mainstream media, not to mention some extreme right-leaning sources. Here are some of the social media groups, the bigger players. It's not excluded to, but which I go to for some insight. Although I take everyone with a grain of salt, but I appreciate their experience and or commentary. Not necessarily in order, but Jessica Denson, Glenn Kirshner, Brian Cohen Taylor, the Midas Touch Network, Legal AF, David Feldman, and David Pakman. And of course, a little known but upcoming Tony's 2 Cents on Politics, which of course is my humble contribution. I know Jessica has issues with Midas Touch Network and the fact that they prohibited her from expressing her issues with inconsistencies on the election. I feel that they did this in order to salvage their subscribers, which begs the question, quantity over quality. My philosophy, in my humble opinion, and with my humble podcast, is that the truth is not always popular, but it is necessary. I would rather have 100 subscribers that are well-informed with all the facets of the truth than 1 million that have missing pieces of the puzzle. However, I do appreciate most of Midas Touch Network's content, and I guess so did the President of the United States, since he invited them to the White House for an interview just recently. Now, I am partially in their camp. However, I do support Jessica Denson 100% because of her tenacity and her willingness to challenge what others will not, to include our president. Now, I'm not going to go over all of what she had talked about in her latest video, which you can see on her YouTube channel, and I will put it in the comments. Now, in this video, she invited Glenn Kirshner on this video. And out of all the people that I have mentioned, I respect his viewpoint the most. He has nothing to gain from talking out, although he has an impressive resume. He's a former JAG officer for the Army and a federal prosecutor. Well, former federal prosecutor. He's extremely intelligent and very knowledgeable. We are fortunate to have him speaking out for us. He's a master at articulating his viewpoint and is spot on in matters of legalities. Again, Jessica's podcast runs about an hour or so, and as I mentioned earlier, if you're one of the cerebral type, it would be worthwhile for you to tune in and listen to the entire podcast. She indicates, and I also realize that a lot of avenues that might have given us relief from this suspected illegitimate election have come and gone. The time for requesting recounts and electoral college certifications already in the books. As far as the letters sent to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, there's not enough time at this point for them to run through investigations. The only resource we have at this point, and the only card that can be played, should be played, and has the strongest chance, is the amendment, which is the Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. That can only be pushed by Congress on or before the congressional certification. To do otherwise would be a dereliction of duty in my eyes. Now, it is my contention, and the point of many, that according to the plain text of the Constitution, this man is disqualified from holding any office. Not my words, but the words of the adjudication in the state of Colorado, where he was found guilty to be an insurrectionist, as well as, again, the plain text of the Constitution. The only thing that can remove this disqualification would be 2/3 vote in Congress. Otherwise, that disqualification stands. This is self-executing and does not need an up or down vote, just exposure and brought into the light for everyone to see. Now, Joe Biden doesn't have to be on board with this, neither does Kamala Harris. It would appear that he is bent on having a peaceful transfer of power. One of the redeeming qualities of Joe Biden is him being a straight shooter, honorable and magnanimous. It would appear at this point that he plans to effect this transfer of power in the name of American integrity. However, sometimes we can blind ourselves to extreme measures that need to be taken in order to save our country from persons of ill intent. It appears that he is taking when they go low, we go high approach, which could be a detriment to this country. When the Constitution was drafted, there were provisions and guardrails to protect us from devious characters, men of ill intent that would want to seize power for a handful of people. Although I don't believe that it took into account the extreme measures and technology that people would have today to accomplish such deception. The guardrails that hold a president to account rely on a person of good character, and assuming the majority of people that voted for him recognize these positive character traits. It did not take into consideration billions of dollars spent, social media, mainstream media that connects the entire world with a message which appears serves to disenfranchise, manipulate, and spread mass disinformation on a global scale. This is why the principles that Joe Biden holds dear do not apply in today's world, and why measures to counter this domestic and global threat need to be adjusted to match the times. Keep in mind that we do have a separation of powers in this country, and it's not the president that makes a decision to qualify or disqualify an individual based on the Constitution. That is the responsibility of Congress to bring it to light. My only hope is that they step up with the amendment that is clearer than day. The only one sure card that we have to play is for Congress to get off their high horse and blinders and hold an amnesty vote on Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. There has been a lot of talk on the Democratic side on how this man is ineligible and is a danger to democracy. It is yet to be seen whether or not they will put their money where their mouths are and do what needs to be done. As Jessica explains, we are outside the window of recounts or any type of investigation into questionable behavior and results. The only thing we have left to hang our hats on is the text of the Constitution itself, dealing with Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which clearly states that this man is disqualified to hold office. If they do not take action in making a concerted effort in that direction, it is hard for me to see if anyone will either trust or support the Democratic Party going forward. It's too bad, because although imperfect, it would appear that they are the voice of reason, even if they lack a backbone. Some may even go so far as to say that they are cut from the same cloth as the Republicans. Now, it's not my attempt to undermine any potential efforts. The Democratic Party may be in the process of salvaging our democracy, but again, you have to put your money where your mouth is, and actions speak louder than words. If you're not part of the solution, then you're part of the problem. If congressional Democrats like Jamie Raskins and Adam Schiff, just to name a few, fail to act in fear of retribution and or inconvenience, then they too, as Adam Schiff once put it, will be tied to Donald Trump for all time by a cord of steel for their inaction. The next step is the responsibility of Congress, and that has not happened yet. It will take place on January 6th. It doesn't have to be a revolution, but a meaningful, civil, tactful discussions as to his qualification according to the Constitution. That should and must take place. It is one of the guardrails set forth in the Constitution to keep people from ill intent from seizing power and turning our country into something that it wasn't meant to be.